Whether you've just purchased a new iPhone or you're using one that you've owned for a little while, you'll no doubt want to make sure that you're getting the absolute most out of the battery that you can. After all, nobody wants a phone that's going to die on them halfway through the day, and whilst there are things that you can do when it comes to charging, in fact, I made an entire video about that which I'll link to below, there are some settings that you can change in your iPhone and a couple of behaviours you can think about that will help you eke out that extra bit of battery life. Stick with me until the end of the video as I'm going to share 10 suggestions with you. Okay, let's get into it. In iOS 16, Apple introduced some new functionality for typing on iPhones. Essentially, if you enable Haptic keyboard, each time you tap on a letter on the on-screen keyboard, your iPhone will create a tiny bit of haptic feedback under the screen, which kind of mimics the feeling of typing on a real keyboard. It's obviously a long way off of the real deal, but it is useful and, in my opinion, does make typing on the iPhone more enjoyable. But it's a battery drain, something that's been confirmed by Apple themselves, and let's be honest, when even Apple are suggesting that you might want to switch it off, you know that it's an important one. To switch it on or off, head to Settings, then Sounds and Haptics, then Keyboard Feedback, and it's the haptic option that you want to toggle on or off. Honestly, here's my advice with this one. Switch it on, type with it, and see if you like it. If you don't get on with it, disable it, save yourself some battery. If you like it, see how you get on with all the other tips in this video, and if you still find battery drain an issue for you, you can then decide whether you want it enabled or disabled, because as I mentioned already, switching this one off will definitely reduce your battery drain. Now, this tip only impacts owners of either an iPhone 14 Pro or Pro Max, so I'll keep this one short and sweet, but these new phones come with an always-on display, which is a really great feature. But as you can imagine, that always-on display does come with a trade-off in battery life. My belief is that Apple will have spent years developing this technology and will have created something that's as efficient as possible. But as this video is all about squeezing out every bit of battery life that we can, I think it is important to show you how to switch it off. Head to Settings, then Display and Brightness, and then here, where it says Always On, you want to toggle that off. Before we go any further, I'd like to say thank you to the sponsor of today's video, Samsung. This is their T7 range, 3 models of compact, lightweight SSDs. They're ideal when you need portable storage, but you don't want to sacrifice performance. This range is interesting because Samsung have incorporated some high-end features as standard across all 3 models, the transfer speed being one of the highlights. You're talking sequential read-write speeds of up to 1050 and 1000 megabytes per second respectively. Along with the USB 3.2 capability, it means you can transfer supersized files quickly and with the space you need, as the range sports storage capacities up to 2 terabytes. And whether you tend to use a Mac or a PC, or something else like a phone or tablet, it's easy to connect to a long list of other tech, so you can use one drive for several of your devices. These are great for use on the go. Samsung claim any of the drives can take a drop of up to 2 meters, which should cover most accidents. The T7 Shield goes a step further, being encased in this stylized rubber grip. It's the most rugged and durable of the 3, withstanding drops of up to 3 meters, and has an IP65 rating for dust and water resistance. So if you spill something close to it, or you're working outdoors with it, you've got some peace of mind that it will survive. So with high performance a given, you can choose a T7 that fits in with your lifestyle. If you want to take a look at the range, just use the link included in the description of this video. Another major change that arrived in iOS 16 was the ability to include widgets, not just on your iPhone's home screen, but also on the lock screen. I've made a video all about this, which I'll include a link to in the description of this video, but essentially any widget that you enable here that requires regular updates to function correctly has the potential to drain your battery really quickly. For example, you can see on my phone here I've enabled a couple of weather-related widgets, and whilst they're really useful, it does mean that every time my phone's lock screen is showing, my phone has to refresh the weather data, which of course uses up some battery life. So if you want to disable these widgets, you would head to Settings, then Wallpaper, and for the relevant wallpaper that you're using, tap on the Customize button. Tap on the relevant widgets and either swap them out for a widget that won't need to refresh as often, or tap the little minus button to remove it altogether. This option always gets a mention in any video related to saving iPhone battery, and with good reason. It's one of the most significant causes of battery drain when your iPhone is seemingly not doing anything. Essentially, apps on your iPhone will have asked you for permission to track your location. Hopefully, when you were greeted with a message asking you for permission, you would have chose only when using the app, which would mean that an app can only access your location details when you have that app open, but not in the background. But there's a chance that you might have granted more access than you wanted, meaning that apps could be using your phone's location services in the background even when they're not open. So an audit of this information is always a good idea. Head to Settings, then Privacy and Security, and tap into Location Services up here at the top of the screen. Scroll down. All of the apps shown here have, in some capacity, requested permission from you to access your location details. If I tap on App Store, for example, you can see that I've got 3 options to choose from here. Either never, or ask next time or when I share, or while using the app. If we tap back to the previous screen, notice up here at the top there's a toggle for location services in general. The issue with switching this off, in my opinion, is that you're switching it off for all apps in general, and there are going to be lots of times where apps will legitimately need that information. My preference would be to scroll through the list and remove things on a per app basis. You can be brutal. If you think something probably shouldn't have access to your location, simply choose never. If you know that an app is going to need access to your location each time you open it, like Uber for example, you could leave it as while using the app, and if you're unsure, choose ask next time or when I share, which will essentially force the prompt next time you open that app. Some apps will offer an always option, which I would generally steer clear of. Also, something that I don't think gets talked about often enough is the small print that you can read here. Each app that asks for location information has to justify it and explain why it wants that information, and you can read that information for each app here. By the way, if you like having stuff written down and you'd like a PDF version of this video, it's available to either purchase as a one-off download, and the link is in the video description, or you can become a channel member, where for a small monthly fee, you'll get unlimited access to all video PDFs moving forward, plus the growing archive of old ones. If your iPhone is a model with an LED display, as opposed to a model with an LCD display, switching your screen to dark mode can significantly increase your battery life. iPhones with an LED display are the 10, the XS, the XS Max, the 11 Pro and Pro Max, the full 12 lineup, 13 lineup and 14 lineup. So if you've got one of those phones, you can make use of this tip. Head to Display and Brightness and tap Dark. Simple as that. Notice that the entire look and feel of your iPhone changes when you do this. Dark mode is very much a case of you either love it or you hate it in my experience. I'm not a huge fan of it, so you should definitely play around with this and see how you get on with it. You can either manually toggle between light and dark, like we've done here, or you could choose automatic, where you can set a schedule or have it change along with the sun in your region. Either way, if you're in dark mode and using one of the phones that I mentioned before, you're going to be using less power than if you're in light mode. Oh, bonus tip for you here. You can access the dark mode toggle really quickly by swiping down to access the control center and tapping and holding on the brightness meter. Your iPhone has a function called auto brightness, which uses your iPhone's ambient light sensor to determine how bright your iPhone screen should be. It's a great feature, I believe it's on by default, but just in case, it's really good to know where to find the setting for it, especially as it is kind of hidden away in a place where you wouldn't typically expect it to be. Open Settings, then choose Accessibility, and then choose Display and Text Size. Right down at the bottom of this screen, there's an option called Auto Brightness. Toggle this on if it isn't already on. So if you're sitting in a dark room, the brightness will automatically drop. If you step outside into bright sunlight, for example, it will brighten. In my experience, you can just leave this enabled and your phone will handle the brightness really well, but you can manually override this if you ever need to. Simply swipe down to access the control center, and you've got manual control of your iPhone's brightness using the brightness toggle here. Your iPhone is extremely capable when it comes to multitasking, and in general does not require you to get involved with closing down apps. In case you're unaware, you can close an app down on your iPhone by swiping up and holding for a moment until your screen looks like this. You would then swipe up on an app to close it. This is known as force closing because you're essentially forcing your phone to shut an app down, and in general this should only be used when an app isn't responding the way that it should be. In other words, you'd use it to reset an app. The problem is many people assume that having lots of apps open at the same time is going to be bad for your battery, and whilst that would be true if all the apps were operating at full power, your iPhone is smart enough to put background apps into a low power mode. Then when you switch to that app, it fires up immediately and works as normal without you knowing that anything has happened. Force quitting apps can actually have a detrimental effect on your battery life, as it requires more power for your phone to open an app from a totally closed state than it does from the low power state that your phone puts background apps into. So in short, use the force quit functionality only when an app isn't functioning properly and you need to force it to close. Outside of that, just use your phone as normal. By the way, if you're enjoying the content here, why not consider signing up to my newsletter, The Proper Weekly? I include some tech news from the week, a behind the scenes of what's happening here on the channel, as well as a tip for an item in the Apple ecosystem. The newsletter goes out each Friday, it's free to join, and I'll include a sign up link in the description of this video. I've seen videos about iPhone battery life where people are recommending that you switch these two features off. I disagree. I think that a key part of your iPhone being able to function as efficiently as possible is it operating on the latest iOS version and with fully updated third-party software. To enable both of these options, head to Settings, then choose General, then Software Update, and ensure that Automatic Updates is toggled on. That way your iPhone will prompt you whenever a new iOS version is available, will download the necessary files when on Wi-Fi, and look to perform the updates as soon as it's able to. I would then go back to Settings, then App Store, and ensure that App Updates is toggled on. This way your phone will always ensure that as soon as a developer makes a new version of their app available, your phone downloads and installs that latest version automatically, rather than running old, potentially buggy software. I talk about this in my other battery video, but it's worth repeating here. I think you should have optimized battery charging enabled. You do this by going to Settings, then Battery Health and Charging, and toggling Optimized Battery Charging on. Essentially, your iPhone will learn from your charging habits and then charge your phone in such a way that the phone only charges to around 80% capacity when you first set it to charge. Your phone will hold off charging that remaining 20% until just before you're likely to need to use it. For example, if you always wake up at 7, your phone might wait until 5 or 6 AM to charge that remaining 20%. That way you're picking your phone up at 100% when you wake up, but just as importantly, your phone isn't constantly being charged to full, only to lose charge and have to be recharged while you're asleep, thus helping to reduce the aging of your battery. If things ever get really desperate, like say if you're away from home, unable to charge anytime soon and your battery is draining faster than you'd like, you could enable low power mode. This reduces much of the background activity of your phone, things like downloading new emails or refreshing background apps, and whilst it will impact your experience of the iPhone, it can be a great way to squeeze out more battery life when you really need it. To enable it, head to Settings, then Battery, and it's this toggle switch here up at the top, low power mode. Also, if you want quick access to this, you can add it to Control Center. You do that by going to Settings, then Control Center, and ensuring that low power mode is included in the available options. So there you go, that's 10 tips for really getting the most out of your iPhone battery. What do you think? Any tips that should have been included here but aren't? Drop me a comment and let me know. And as ever, if you found this video useful, do please consider leaving me a like and subscribing to my channel for more content like this in the future. See you on the next video.